and the morning geese were my sign. Hello again, I'm Donovan, and this is a primer for those who are walking away if you are perplexed by the right wing. The subject today is going to be Leviathan, a term I'm forgetting which libertarian. It'll pop up in the comments because I am graced by the company often of a great many intelligent countrymen. And so, Leviathan is a term for this thing that is the state, but not just a government office, not your local DMV with some hefty old lady who likes making corny jokes about things and takes a long time talking about, mundane things that a grandchild did or something. No. Leviathan is what we're seeing by its teeth, such as the FBI. The government that was established and really is associated usually by the right wing with the big state, the mega state. That's going to be the government as it became established by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. There's parts of it that proceed and precede. Proceed from and then precede all of that. Things such as laws against harming government workers. That this begins as a few protections for government workers. Eventually this becomes this way in which you can never even fire them for their great fear that they'll be targeted by an earlier period of time in politics. You really had goonery more often. Even though now the Democrats have reverted back to a party that loves goonery. So the FBI at this point is now this organization that it keeps popping up in this way. That every so often, because there wasn't the internet, people weren't able to compare notes. But what slowly has happened is that it's becoming sort of like the FBI it has some element of it that is just kind of like almost like a party mafia, party enforcer kind of aspect to it. That the Democrats want things to run a certain way, and the FBI thoroughly agrees with that and will agree with it with violence. That the FBI will recruit criminals to go after people that they determine are some form of political enemy. This is one that came up from this one reporter, George Webb. He was actually the guy who sued about Bernie Sanders and trying to find out, why don't we get some transparency on how all the voting for the candidacy went, because we think Bernie Sanders won. And then everyone found out that the Democratic Party doesn't have to do that because of its legal structure. And everybody felt, was left scratching their neck. George Webb had worked with a reporter that it was like, at first he didn't think this either. He really was one of these people who came in from the outside, only by the end of it, like truly being like, no, there is, there's things that he's connected that it's taken years to pan out. It's taken years for the information to trickle out, like what kind of he meant, okay, he put it in these terms, and so what I mean, Hillary Clinton and Clinton's connection to Google and Alphabet. George mapped out how that happens. And he's like, this is why presidents, it's so important that the way presidents get involved in things. And he goes, because what they do, or even an entire generation of politicians, will get involved in the latest technology. They know all the laws. They know the lawyers. They know the they know the professional organization officers. They know, all of the. This is kind of their baby legislatively. Some type of whatever the technology of the day is. Because also keep in mind, a lot of this is stuff that actually technically is military in nature, and then is released in some way to the civilian market, and there's probably laws that will, go around all the regulatory stuff of that, and so like right now, the big thing what Barack Obama is sitting on with Obamacare and all that is genomics. That he is going to be one of these, his legacy will be he could possibly be getting rich off of the genetics industry. Now, somebody could say that's also what could happen with Donald Trump. That's very true. That is absolutely true, and that is why you stay as wise as the serpent and as gentle as the dove. So the George mapped out all these things, lots and lots of these various programs for energy, for all kinds of stuff, and mapped out like how that character Bruce Orr, who came up in one of these many things, one of the many Trump scandals. Well, Bruce Orr, his dad, worked for the government and works like in the field of fusion energy. Like he started mapping out like how all these various people were people that sometimes went back 3 generations in the government, doing like highly specialized work. And these people would pop up, and he would find the metadata on them all over the internet, and he would, really research their background as much as he could. It was very interesting, and it was great because he really was trying to get people to understand how that worked. And a lot of people on the right have since figured this out, and so you'll find that they'll look people up real fast now, and that's why Telegram is all these characters hate Telegram so much, because Telegram's this place where especially very informative, very smart right-wingers post, their research and can do it in long form. During a time when Twitter didn't allow that. Twitter's kind of back, but Telegram is still kind of the underground, and I think it's the way that you network, if I remember correctly. So if you don't really want to be found, you don't necessarily, like if you don't want people to join you, if you don't want to join you, they won't, or something. I'd have to. I haven't played with it in a while. So the other thing I was thinking about, FBI. Here's a weird one. When we recruited the entire Axis government, let me make sure you understand. I am not mincing words. The entire Axis government of Ukraine, as the war had ended, just like when we recruited Hitler's main intelligence or key intelligence guy on the Eastern Front and all of his staff and their families. So not rocket scientists, the people who propagandized the population to follow National Socialism to war. And then, helped do the things that you would expect an intelligence person would be doing in Eastern Europe. during World War II. Just let it wash over you. So Alex Jones had the drop on this one. He interviewed a man who wrote a book once called The Belarus Brigade, and when there was a declassification of more documents, he was able to drop America's Nazi secret. He was an FBI agent who had testified in front of Congress on what he found as far as Ukrainians who had been brought over by the United States government, and they were whether they had committed war crimes or not, but that so that these were people that fundamentally we considered then, but for some fascinating reason, we don't quite consider this now, Nazis. And bad guy Nazis. So by the end of the book, George starts to find that the Immigration and Nationalization Service had not so much been duped about these people. The INS now and then, that a huge number of these people, their names had been misspelled, and then INS had filtered them through very specific people and at INS. And then when it was supposed to be, did you look, we've looked into this person's background, correct? Yes, signed the FBI. So without the FBI, we wouldn't have had what were very likely World War II war criminals. The people who didn't hang in Nuremberg wouldn't have been in the United States. Now, you heard a lot of rumors that there were neo-Nazis in Ukraine. See, so far, you're going to find that there's people on the right who they're on some, this is all a bunch of coinky-dinky doodles. And there's not really that many members of the Azov battalion. Even though it looks like, from what the book said, and then later information that's come out, these people actually were spread by the Anglosphere intelligence services all over the Anglosphere. So they're in Australia and they're in Canada as well. Anybody who had ever researched, now some of you who've walked away, there's some of you who you might have been a real one. You might have been one of those people who you really researched, white nationalists, because you really believed these people were a threat. So you looked into them. You looked into some of the weird symbols that they always use, things like that. You might have been one of these people who actually had real information from one of them about the history of their organizations, and that no, this is much larger. This was found to be in the military. They tried to excise it from the Pentagon. This is the armory robbery at Bremerton has all. There's a bunch of people who say no, that's straight up, that had something to do with these organizations. They were raising money by selling guns in the hood, and that there's people who are like, oh no, I'm sure of it. I was directly connected to the info on it, blah blah blah. So there's some element of utilizing violent people by the government to get political ends. 4 shots of espresso, caramel, a little bit of half and half. Woo! So that's where a lot of this is the driest take on the sort of crazy conspiracy theory thing. There's obviously some kind of other organizations within the government that would do all kinds of terrible things to civilians in the name of G.I. Joe. in Libertad, or whatever they're working toward. But it's that you don't really have to look much further than the FBI. A lot of roads end there. One of the things I highly recommend, if you're new to the right wing, is to look up videos. The best one is to finding the finders, and then you put in this person's name, Metokur. So this is one of the kind of the funniest men on the internet, and he's sort of a secret of the right wing, and he covered finding the finders cult. It was a file. It was a real case. But the way he covers it, because it's scary as hell, it'll scare the shit out of you. Like when you really think through, by the end of it, it takes 2 hours. But it's so funny. And Jim is so funny that it's just, there's no way of explaining it. It is the fact that you could tell that he's smiling the whole time. You could hear in his voice that he's smiling, and I think Jim's still alive. I think he's probably rotted away down to just some organs. They got him in a Darth Vader suit or something like that. The Mayo Clinic. Uh-oh. Why did I just do that thing? Okay, no. Still rolling. We're still cooking. They haven't found me with their space lasers. I like now that, the Arrow missile, that everybody saw some kind of crazy missile, some kind of crazy thing shoot something down over Israel, and they're like, Jewish space laser. I'm like, no. That's some kind of specialized missile. No. We wouldn't see anything. If it was space laser, we wouldn't see anything. No. That was some specialized missile. We saw too much. And so now we're getting this understanding it's something called the Arrow. So I just wanted to touch on this because at some point you'll run into these things like, oh, there's, they are doing this and them, and they are da 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 da, and so a lot of people get kind of tangled and twisted up in this. It's like no. Apparently the FBI is just a very poorly controlled organization. So one of the things that credit has to be given is their local sections have done a lot that it was kind of surprising. Like, people were really surprised, especially starting, like, you really see it during the Trump administration, that the feds were busting people who were doing things to children like once a week by hundreds. Sometimes it was like up to 1,000 people at once getting busted in some sting. This was a big reason why you hear so many people on the right talk about the harming of children, and that's what this is a fight against. That really, what the left is about is that somewhere it's at some point they're about harvesting children. The thing is, no matter how strange that sounds, it's that there's a mountain range of evidence. It just takes lots of hiking. It takes a lot of hiking, and you gotta have the right equipment to do it. So there we go. I just thought I would map out that area, because this is and there's more to it. There's far more to it than that. But you'll hear sort of this on the right side of politics. If you're new to it, you'll hear a problem with the FBI, the feds, the CIA, NSA, such groups like that And it's because of how the idea is like, no, the mostly what they seem to be doing is going after specifically us. And it's because we keep insisting on American sovereignty, so America can't get constantly pulled into kicking the shit out of some randos in Nowheresville every few years using Southern boys and the next generation's labor. And so that's, yeah, and that's the key. And then also one of the big things that happened with the new right that's really a very big deal is, what is it to be a Christian? And that this really started to bother a lot of the young people who were millennials on the right, that they had always been raised with these, with relatively, usually these were rather staunch Protestants who this kind of debate started with, that they were really like, why are we constantly at war for a Christian nation? Bam. Simple as. Why are we constantly at war if we are supposedly a Christian nation, a Christian people? It was a very good question, and it changed everything. And it would be hard to think of that that's what did it. What changed so much of American politics were the Christians saying, why are we always at war if we're supposed to be good? Simple as. And people, the debates that went from there changed the entire outlook of foreign policy by what is now called the right wing. And so it's made people like Lindsey Graham furious. John McCain was furious. It's made all of these, there's all these international institutions now that have outed themselves. Nobody really knew much about them. Very quiet, hush hush. But now everybody knows about them because they keep writing articles about, no, you have to send in jets now, because who knows what's going to happen if you don't send in jets. Tomorrow you'll be speaking Russian if you don't send in jets. And I mean, just and writer after old right wing, you'll know their name if you're older than 30. You'll know their name, and just that they don't matter at all. Just making themselves look like morons. You know, just and over and over and over and over again. This person after person writing some think piece, trying to figure out kind of how to goad these guys into, like, you know, with the right words you can get somebody to understand, you know. And it's so a thing that happened solidly, that happened, oh no way, bro, you do not have it. I can't even admit I know what that sticker means. Oh, that's so bad. Everything's so terrible now. Okay. Oh, God. Oh, Eric, I'll tell you about it on EVE Online, dude. That was great. But the idea of being fooled and being bamboozled by government operations, sometimes government operations that these are going for a long time. These are going for a long time. A lot of propaganda stuff, it lasts surprising long amounts of time. But having some familiarity with this clears up a lot. That there's something within, so the last stage, the senior executive service. Can't believe I was about to forget that. Got distracted. Devil's distracting me. Senior executive service is the last thing that you have to know about. And this is even rarely known about on the right side of politics. Once you look, all you have to do, just senior executive service, federal government. And you're going to find out that you can apply. Yes, you you can become a part of what is kind of like the elite management of the departments of the government. You have seen a member of the senior executive service. Remember that person who popped up in the news recently for stealing purses at an airport? It was a Biden appointee to some office, was canned for stealing women's luggage. They got the job through the senior executive service. So what this is that this is a type of program that recruits people so that they will be managers of federal departments. So there's a number of rumors of who might have been in this, because it's technically under the Army. So they're knowing who's in the organization is not something that's widely known. And you can't really get any reports on who these people are in these organizations, and so, or in this organization. So, yeah, and they become basically the person who runs a department. They set up the management protocols and everything, and so James Comey was likely one of these people. Note what Trump is promising he's going to do. He's going to eliminate a large portion of the federal government employment. He's going to change the way that the federal government operates at the level of the employees. And that's what this is all about. Leviathan.